All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Aravind. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
So let me ask you right off the bat, I want to get some ground truth here. What is your company's definition of plagiarism? Well, you must have one. I mean, it's maybe this, maybe that. I'm curious. You have to have one until you don't do it by accident.
I mean, like, you can ask Perplexity this, actually. And
I thought I was.
actually, yeah, like, that's the best way to get the answer to this. It's not my company's definition. It's like, what's actually the definition of plagiarism? And, like, obviously, Perplexity always cites its sources, so there's no claim to ownership of any content. It's actually just surfacing content from the web, summarizing it in a manner that the user can digest, and then provides where it's getting all this information from. Exactly like how journalists do their job, or academics do their job, or like students write their essays, as long as there's a bibliography and citation section, right? And
but in that sense, if in the academic sense, they've produced an original document, right, and they are using the citations to create something original.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes when a particular news outlet breaks news first, and another news outlet reports the same news, but mentions that this was first reported by so and so, is that considered plagiarism?
Well, when I quote somebody, I put it in quotes and I say they said it.
Yeah.
But I think it was CopyLeaks just did a study, and they found that when Perplexity can see an article, so it will often just use 8, 10, 15 words in a row from the article, and it will cite the article in a little card or something like that. But it doesn't.
Sources are right at the top in a source panel, and at the end of every sentence there's a footnote and or the corresponding page from where it's pulling the information from. Of course, it's not like extremely precise that it always the exact right footnote is associated with every sentence, but like we've tried, just to be very clear, we launched on December 7, 2022, almost 2 years ago, and at that time, the whole world was like obsessed with ChatGPT, which launched 7 days earlier, but we were the only AI product that came and said references and citations are important. Whereas the other product just took all the content from the web that was absorbed in the model, right? There was no referencing. So from the beginning, we've cared about it and only improved there in terms of like, what you're saying is like, make it even more clear within the body of the text that this particular part is coming from that source, and like, we are trying our best to do those kind of things.
I believe you, and you come from an academic background.
Yeah.
So like, I genuinely believe that this is a priority for you, and I know that since you brought the citations in from the very beginning, that shows this isn't just lip service, but you have to, of course, have your definition of, the reason I ask is not just to, pique you, but because you have to understand or define plagiarism in order to say, well, we don't want to do plagiarism. Mm-hmm. So if I were to, say, copy and paste something into one of my articles, I would know that I was doing a plagiarism, right? Mm-hmm. And I would feel bad about it. That's why I don't do it. Mm-hmm. So ideally, you would want your model to not do that. So it has to know, or somebody has to know. There has to be an overseer model that's like, oops, you copy pasted a little there. Is there any kind of oversight like that? And we can move on after this, but I want to, I asked the question for a reason.
So here's how it works, right? Like the models are instructed to not give any exact text from any particular source, but give a summary that's actually like taking in all the different perspectives together. And directly get to the user's point and not like reproduce any content from the web. And that particular instruction is performed well as models keep getting better at this skill called instruction following. In AI, it's often referred to as supervised fine-tuning, SFT, or reinforcement learning from human feedback. And like, obviously, we're not the ones doing all the model training. We take other models from other developers and Llama, like open source models. And no model is perfect. Like, obviously, you're going to be able to like prompt engineer or prompt inject any model out there to make it do things differently from what it was originally prompted to do. That whole thing is called prompt injection.
Well, sure, but if I just say like, hey, summarize this article, and then as has been shown, sometimes you see it takes a sentence and
so that's not really an intended use case for our product. Like our product is meant to answer questions. Some people try to use it in a way that we don't want them to use it, which is like summarize this URL for me, and then they paste the URL.
So
And we've actually
don't use it that way.
I mean, we're actually not allowing for that particular use case, and we try our best to avoid that instruction. But again, there's literally nobody in AI that can claim I can always have a guardrail against one particular use case. You can always figure out a new way to prompt engineer things such that the original guardrail that you built doesn't work, and then you learn that, you address that over time, and at some point, like it's pretty safe enough to deploy. In the sense that it doesn't actually do any kind of instruction you give to use it in a way it's not intended to be used.
I gotcha. So just the whole concept of AI-powered, AI-driven, AI-native search, we've seen a few companies doing this, but I think most prominently, we all know, Google has been complicating and shitifying search for like a decade now, adding summaries, widgets, AI. It's been maybe one of the most universally disliked changes to a major platform that I've seen personally as a tech journalist in my entire career, 15, 20 years. But it feels like some companies were like, I like what you're doing, Google. Did you just decide to pick up where they left off? You think you could do it better?
I see, basically Google is fundamentally a link-based search engine. Whether they like to give answers or not, that's what makes them money. Even yesterday, the earnings call said they make 45 billion a quarter in just search ads. So that's very important, core to their business. And I think even though they don't break down the margins are primarily coming from making you click on links. So they are incentivized to show you as many links as they can. So even though this AI summary is beginning to come for at least certain informational queries, it's not really the primary mode of usage. Most queries out of maybe 5 to 8 billion daily queries that they have, most of the queries don't have that. That's the reality. Because if it wasn't the case, then it'll certainly disrupt the revenue model, right? What we are trying to do is Google.com, or at least the Google search bar, the homepage, is not really a place meant for going and asking direct questions. The median number of words in a Google query is somewhere between 2 and 3. Exact stats obviously hard to determine, but people have estimated to be around 2.7. In Perplexity, it's around 10 to 11 words. So clearly the mode of usage in Perplexity is people coming and directly being able to ask a question. On the other hand, at Google, you're typing in a few keywords to instantly get to a certain link. Obviously, people still use Google for, say, age of a celebrity, or live score of a match that's going on, or the weather in San Francisco. And these are modes of usage where you still type in 2 or 3 words, but you're instantly looking for an answer. And you could argue both these different products, Perplexity and Google, both should serve that use case because at the end of the day, people want instant information. But other than that, the two products are completely different.
So I'm curious about some of these use cases. First of all, you've been throwing out use cases and features like crazy on Twitter in the last 2 weeks. I've seen 50 come out. And for you just mentioned the score of a match. You just added match scores to Perplexity.
Only for NFL so far.
Only for NFL. Are you getting it straight from the NFL, or are you scraping somebody, or what?
No. We have a data contract with a data provider for sports, and then we use that just like how Google actually does too. Nobody directly scrapes scores because it's pretty hard to make sure it's accurate.
And so is this because people are writing Seahawks score today, or is it because they're saying, oh, give me the score breakdown of the last 20 NFL games or whatever?
I think more the second. Look, at the end, we want Perplexity to be a place where you can come and ask anything, and it's our job to give you an accurate answer. So obviously, we found our initial user, everybody finds a certain niche set of users and user base in the beginning. Facebook was popular with school students. Amazon, catered to books. So just like how the early internet really pandered to the academics, people who kind of build repositories of knowledge. Even in AI, that was the case. Perplexity was initially really liked by a lot of these scholarly, academic, research-oriented, knowledge-oriented people, and that's what we built a brand around. But we want to expand to basically the whole planet. Everybody should be able to ask any question about anything. Sports is a thing where you might assume it has nothing to do with knowledge, but there are a lot of nerds about sports, people who like nerding out over stats, analyzing matches, like trying to learn more about like particular player or team or like probability of success, predictions, summary of the game if you haven't like actually followed it. And so we think like we can offer more than just the live score. That's why when we put out like there's actual commentary summaries and like at player level comparisons, team level comparisons, more fine-grained details that a lot of people are going to like if they care about that vertical.
This is just one of like I said, like a dozen or 2 dozen features that you've
Yeah.
just sort of like popping out there, and you're like, oh, you can do this now. How is there a strategy here, or are you just kind of like it's like a shotgun approach, where you're like, look, we're gonna blast 10 different products out here, and 3 of them are gonna stick. Are you trying to find the products that are actually valuable to your users?
No, we really look at the logs, what people are asking for. In fact, like before sports, we prioritize finance because we have a lot of users in the business and finance vertical that are doing their research about the market, about their portfolio management, or like news related to cryptocurrencies or like investment strategies of other investors, just trying to understand different stocks, news related to stocks. I think people are trying to make sense of the world. So we look at the logs, like where we can do better and where we can provide more than just a wall of text. I think that really matters. Sports is a place where a lot of people have spotted several hallucinations that we've had, like when we've not been able to provide the accurate score of a game. And it's basically like a thing where like, if we ensure we can cover a bunch of verticals that people are so used to their daily habits on an existing search engine, then they have no reason to like kind of like go back to the traditional blue link interface, right? So that's what like our goal is like, okay, if you want to change your habits, it's not easy. It's a 2 or 3 decade old habit of like, just going to like a 10 blue link search engine. But if this is supposed to be a change, if this is supposed to be the future, we have to earn it. We have to like actually do all the hard work of like covering your daily use cases beyond just like helping you in software development or helping you in like research planning or your academic research or your financial research. We have to do all the boring stuff around like local searches, so like sports, weather, shopping, travel, and that's how we decide our priorities.
We also earned a lawsuit, the Dow Jones thing. They called Perplexity a content kleptocracy. Thought that was pretty strong. Your public response said that the media companies wish this technology didn't exist. But I don't think that's true, because you have deals with Fortune and Time. The plaintiff, News Corp, they have a friendly deal with OpenAI. So it isn't that they wish that you didn't exist. Is it just that they didn't like the arrangement that you were offering?
Well, they claim that we didn't respond, and that's not true. And we actually responded the same day. So I hope people appreciate that our intent is to collaborate and engage and work together.
What does that actually look like, though? Like, I mean, if you were going to talk with them, what did we talk about these arrangements, like a revenue sharing? Like, what revenue? Well, how are you going to share it? How does that even look?
So we put out this program called the Perplexity Publisher Program, and that went out a few months ago. And the idea there is licensing content is a very short-term arrangement. And first of all, there are 2 things. One is you have to separate out AI companies into 2 types. Companies that go and train these really large foundation models on all the data on the internet, where the models are basically internalizing all the text, all the tokens it's consuming, to the extent that it has full knowledge of it, and if it's perfectly trained and keeps getting better at larger scales, all that content is already internalized in the model's weights. The second type is where it's only using the content from the web as sources in real time for that particular query whenever the source is relevant to summarize the content, not even like train anything on it. We're trying to explain to publishers that we are in the second type, and they shouldn't come with the mindset of like, oh, the first type of companies pay us some certain amount of money for licensing our content to train models. So you basically are, that's the structure that works for media and AI. We're trying to explain to people that that's not like really applicable for the second type of companies. And for the second type of companies, we are proposing a different structure. Nobody's really come forward to propose anything here yet. So what we are saying is like, we're going to make revenue through advertising because we are fundamentally a search product. yes, we're giving answers directly, but we are in the search category, and search category is mass market consumer, and eventually you can make a lot of revenue through advertisements. And unlike the previous 10 billion search engine that made a ton of advertising revenue, but never shared anything with any of the publishers, what we are saying is we will share our advertising revenue with the publisher on a query level basis. That is, on a particular query, if we gain an advertising revenue on that query, and if your source was cited as part of that answer, we'll share that revenue with you. And if our growth continues and if we monetize that growth effectively through ads, that's hugely rewarding to all the publishers who choose to work with us and allow their content to be cited as part of our answers.
It isn't part of the assertion, though, that people, the publishers, like, I mean, we're one too. We don't have a deal with you or anything like that, obviously. The problem is that we see it as that when somebody gets a copy of my article or whatever, being cited in a Perplexity summary of like this or that startup system, they don't go to my article. They don't click through, and that robs us of the traffic and revenue that we need to survive in the first place. And I think that comes through in News Corp's lawsuit. They say, look, you say that you're not in competition with us, but you are. Like, it's that simple. Do you disagree with that? I mean, you must, but in what way do you disagree?
So we're not a news product. Like, nobody's coming. Like literally nobody comes to Perplexity for consuming their daily news.
So why do you have to go out there and get all the stuff all the time then?
People come here to make sense of what's going around. Like, how does that particular piece of news affect me? Like, let's say there is a news related to NVIDIA, like Blackwell GPUs. Let's say there's a delay, or like Jensen comes and says it's on track, and you're like asking, okay, in the context of that news, should I continue to buy more NVIDIA stock? These are not the kind of questions you can come and ask TechCrunch, but you come and ask Perplexity that. At the same time, you're not coming to Perplexity for reading that news about what Jensen has said. You're actually directly going to the source. So these are two different products. And people need to understand that, and like I think it's our job to like educate people more on these things, on these differences, and like show literally how people are using our products. Nobody's coming here to literally like just say, oh, exactly reproduce this article for me here. There are other sites to do that already. There are free sites on the web where you can literally paste the URL and like get the content behind any paywall. We are not meant for that particular use case at all.
But you do get value from the broader internet and all the creators out there. Millions of people who are putting out YouTube videos and articles and books and stories and things online. How can we get involved? Like, I mean, we've been so used to, Google, you do the ads, or on YouTube you monetize this way.
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to monetize?
Yeah, so
we were not involved at all.
Correct. So we invited everybody, right? So definitely, like, everyone's welcome to be part of our publisher program. In addition to the ad revenue sharing, we are also going to help you build AI native assistants, or like any kind of like AI assistants on your platform for your users. If people want to explicitly search over your content alone while they're on your site, like let's say they're reading an article and there are like a bunch of follow-up questions people want to ask in the context of the article directly on your site without having to come to us, we are going to help you by providing our APIs, like with a lot of API credits. And we're also going to give our premium product, our Perplexity subscription product, enterprise plan for all the employees of any media company, because we think like our product can actually help you create content even more effectively. Everyone, when you're writing a new piece of content or you're writing a new journalistic piece, you want to do your fact checks, you want to do your research about what's going on, or like anyone involved in that piece, you want to do your research about them. And there's right now, like, we are one of the most cutting edge research tools, so it's going to be pretty useful for people to like streamline their research more effectively.
I get you. I'm not an academic, so I don't know. I think we may just fundamentally disagree on some of the aspects of getting to the source, and what I need may not be what you need, and so on. Now, this is kind of a pretend they're not here for a second. It's just us. This is this world, what we're talking about, copyright and lawsuits and stuff. This is a very complicated, unprecedented area of IP law. It's still there's literally no precedence. So it's understandable if mistakes are made. Do you think it's possible that somewhere along the line you might have unintentionally just done a crime? It happens. I'm saying do you think it's possible?
I mean, we put out our response, and like that's whatever I stated in my blog post is what I would believe in, and like in any lawsuit we're going to obviously defend ourselves.
Do you think the laws need to change to allow more stuff like this, so like put up the IP a little more freedom for the IP to move around?
I mean, there's already like a lot of like existing law around like copyright, and like there's been precedents established already that copyright over facts is not a thing.
Well, certainly yes, but it's not just facts. You know, I don't just write like.
I mean,
fact
by the way, neither of us are lawyers, so obviously, you know, we cannot settle the debate here.
Yes.
Our belief is that facts need to be universally distributed to everybody. Imagine a world where like scientists in the past claim ownership over a certain fact, and other people cannot state that. Knowledge and truth cannot be disseminated in such a manner.
No, that's true. No, it's an interesting perspective, and I'm genuinely curious. So why raise so much money? Is it expensive, giving the facts away?
Well, AI is expensive. I hope we can make it cheaper over time, but right now GPUs are expensive, data centers are expensive, so people who provide these models, they need to recover some of their investments by charging inference costs, and people who consume these models, like people like us, have to pay them for that. And so I think we are at a point where the API costs are dropping like roughly 2x every 4 months or 5 months. That's the recent trend. So if that trend even continues for another year or two, we can see at least another 10 to 50x reduction in the model cost from where we are today. So that's really amazing for a company like us, which is on the growth trend while the costs are on the declining trend. So that way, you focus a lot on growth, you deal with the costs in the short term because you know that it's going to reduce, and you dramatically scale up your operations. And then during that process, you're also figuring out a good long-term sustainable revenue model. And we think there's a lot more ways to monetize AI products outside subscriptions. Obviously, subscriptions have seen a lot of success for many companies. We're also doing reasonably well there. But we think there's a lot better ways to monetize at a usage level and not just at a monthly retainer. And I think it's on us to figure that out. If we don't figure that out and raise a lot of cash, obviously we'll be in trouble. But we think we can figure it out.
Do you think you can take some of the revenue, ad revenue away from Google? You think people will switch over?
I don't know if it'll be zero sum that way. In the sense that basically one way to think about everybody is oh, I have a certain marketing budget, and if I spend it all on Google in future, I'm going to spend 95% on Google, 5% on Perplexity. I don't know if it'll work like that. There has been established trends that while Meta's advertising revenues have grown, Google's has also continued to stay stable or at least grow a little bit. So it's possible that it might hurt the advertising revenue of other companies if our advertising revenue grows, but it's not very clear to me if people are going to spend less immediately. I think whenever a new platform comes about, I think first thing is not to piss off existing users, not to lose their trust, not to over optimize for ad revenue and then kind of destroy the whole thing, why it even exists. At the same time, trying to convince the advertiser that there's no brand risk associated with advertising on this product, how to deal with hallucinations. We have to do a lot of work. So I think it's at least going to take us 2 years to figure all this out.
Gotcha. I'll do a really quick lightning round, and then I want to get to a last topic. I'm going to say a company name, and you give me a yes or no whether you've received an offer from them. Acquisition, acqui-hire, beheading, whatever. You ready? OpenAI.
No comments.
Microsoft.
No comments.
Google.
Definitely no.
Notion.
No comments.
Amazon.
No comments.
Meta.
Yeah. Look,
it's almost over. Meta.
No comments.
Elon Musk.
No comments.
But you're friends. You know? You know what I'm talking about. Okay, don't worry. We don't have to worry about that. But speaking of immigration, you just tweeted earlier today you're dealing with your own issues with this. I wanted to give you a second to maybe vent and just sort of give maybe some advice to other people who are going through this same issue. You're like running $1 billion company, you're still trying to get your green card. I think that's crazy.
I mean, I'm not. By the way, my point is not that I should get everything.
No, but it's everybody goes through this. It's a serious, it's a difficult process. I would hope you have something you can say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a reasonable understanding of this. There are per country caps established in the American immigration system of okay, for this particular country, you only allow these many number of people per year on the permanent residency thing. And obviously, I'm from India. There's a lot of people trying to get in here from India, and then I think there's a lot of backlogs from COVID that keeps that's the primary reason I feel like it's moving slow. But can we do better? Everybody agrees with me that the system can be better, and I hope just by complaining about it, people take more note about this. That was my intention.
No, and I wanted to give you a chance to put that out there.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Sorry we went over time backstage. Thanks for being a good sport about all this. Take it easy. Thanks for coming out.